Afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I have to see you before I put my reading glasses on. The middle-aged among you will have empathy for me. So first off, let me thank all of you for coming and sharing this with us, and thank you, Gayla and Delphine and Ariel, for organizing this really special event. I'm really happy it's happening and happy to participate, so thank you. Art Galleries at Black Studies on the UT campus was created in 2016 as a collecting institution dedicated to the academic mission of showcasing art of individuals of Black descent. It's free and it's open to all. Art Galleries at Black Studies is a center for teaching, learning, and scholarship that serves as a forum for the creative and critical expression of artists, curators, and historians, and it's committed to inviting diverse audiences to engage with its programs. As the sole on-campus entity at UT dedicated to acquiring, preserving, interpreting, exhibiting, and otherwise making accessible modern and contemporary art and the cultural materials of Africa and the African diaspora, AGBS is an important cultural asset of Black Studies at UT. So we have two gallery spaces. There's the Christian Green Gallery in Jester, which is about a block away, and we have the Idea Lab, which is probably a half mile away in the Gordon White building, and 6 project spaces which are throughout the Gordon White building. So I was the director of the Warfield Center for African and African American Studies, which was moving into its new building, which was then called the Black and Latino Studies Building, which would ultimately be named the Gordon White Building. And you have heard the Gordon name multiple times in this conversation. I will get back to that. However, keep that in mind. And alongside the African and African Diaspora Studies Department, the Institute for Urban Policy Research and Analysis, the Policy Institute. That is where we would move. So the historic home for the Center for African and African American Studies was being vacated. We, and here I mean several of us, Dr. Gordon among the we, petitioned to keep the space in the hopes we could raise the money to turn it into the state-of-the-art exhibition space that it is today. The Art Galleries at Black Studies became the 4th unit of the Black Studies Collective. And it is built on the work of Dr. Omi Jones and Ted Gordon, who had already started collecting art for the Warfield Center in Black Studies and having exhibitions of art and material culture at the Warfield Center. So let me just take a moment to talk to you a little bit about Omi Jones. She is our first emerita professor in Black Studies, and she is a playwright, actor, and historian of performance art who is deeply dedicated to visual art, and she fostered that at the Warfield Center and in Black Studies. At the same time, we have Dr. Gordon, who, and I'm going to divulge a little bit about your personal history here, grew up being the kind of fictive nephew of Charles White and Fran White. And so this person, who is not an art historian, but a recovering anthropologist, as he calls himself, grew up surrounded by excellent social political art. And so here we had 2 people running the Center for Black Studies, Center for African and African American Studies, which would go on to be Black Studies, each of whom had a really serious interest in and dedication to art and an understanding of its potential for activism and potential to change things. And so that has always been built into Black Studies at UT. And so AGBS could not have been created were it not for some very major gifts. And I am showing you exhibitions that feature prominently those gifts. The first is the Charles White exhibition, Charles White and the Legacy of the Figure, celebrating the Gordon gift. And that is an exhibition that I had the pleasure of curating that is interested in thinking through how Charles White and his dedication to figuration has kind of influenced more recent artists. And so you can see the artists who were paired with him in the gallery. And keep my glasses off for another sec. And just to tell you that I told you that Black and Latino Studies building is named the Gordon White Building. It is named the Gordon White Building precisely because of this gift that the Gordon family gave to the University of Texas at Austin to name the building that we are housed in. And this, along with the gift that the Christian Greens gave us, were major factors in being able to create the robust spaces that we have today. And so the second slide shows you Collecting Black Studies, which is an exhibition from a few years ago that features works that are in our collection. And this slide itself shows you several works that were donated by the Christian Greens. And these are major works of American modernism that you are seeing that were donated by the Christian Greens. So we've got Romare Bearden, Sam Gilliam, and Norman Lewis, along with an up-and-coming artist, Christina Coleman, along the abstract artist who is right next to Norman Lewis, right? So imagine being a newly minted MFA working in abstraction and showing your work, having your work shown alongside that of Norman Lewis. So these are some of the things that we're able to do that others are not always able to do. And so it is the gifts of the Gordons and the Green Christians that have really made us able to do the things that we've been able to do. And partially what they did was political advocacy, right? So in some ways, money talks, in many ways, maybe in all ways, money talks, but it also talks politically, right? And so these gifts encouraged, convinced, persuaded, made, however you want to think about it, President Bill Powers, whose name graces this building and who was a very strong supporter of Black and ethnic studies on campus, and Dean Randy Deal, now retired. It was their dedication to these projects, in some ways having their hands forced by these earlier donations, that made them commit to Black Studies generally, but to the art galleries of Black Studies and the Black Diaspora archives in particular. So at the same time, we have an increase in faculty and students working in Black Studies, as well as an increasing awareness that the history and culture of Afro-descended people should be more manifest in collections at the Benson, in collections at the HRC, at the Blanton, among other places. And so part of our goal has been to have this campus better represent the plurality of artistic and material culture products that are made by people of African descent and not solely by people of European and European American descent. So I also want to acknowledge the importance of my colleague Michael Ray Charles to this project. You all may know that he was faculty here in art and art history for many years, and he went to the University of Houston and is now back at UT Austin again. But he was an important voice and interlocutor with Jones and with Gordon in emphasizing the importance of the expressive and performant arts to Black studies. Now, the reverse is also true, that an artist, such as Charles, learned a great deal from his being in the context of a larger group of Black humanists, Black social scientists, and other Black scholars. And so what you see in the example of Michael Ray Charles is a real give and take of Black studies and art and Black studies. So I do need to mention him in this context. So with the two slides that I'm showing you here, I want to point out how Art Galleries of Black Studies is also an important laboratory space. The Notes on Sugar exhibition is the work of Neon Queens, who Phillip Townsend mentioned earlier. But it really grows out of the master's thesis that Townsend himself wrote on Maria Magdalena Campos Pons. And so there is a way that the intellectual work, the scholarly work, really foments and undergirds our work in the art galleries at Black Studies. I will also point out the Michael Ray Charles exhibition that I curated in the Idea Lab a number of years back, which was also a laboratory where I was able to kind of play out some of the interests that I was able to then go on and talk about in the book, Michael Ray Charles. So since then, Black Studies Art and Archive Initiative has grown tremendously, most visibly with the two dedicated exhibition spaces, the Idea Lab and the Christian Green Gallery, which have hosted more than 20 exhibitions now, featuring artists such as Maria Magdalena Campos Pons, Charles White, Deborah Roberts, Juan Capistran, Carrie Mae Weems, Mel Edwards, and Colleen Smith, just to name a few. AGBS's footprint has also enlarged with our collections. We have amassed collections and shown exhibitions that have ever increasing more students and visitors who come to visit and come to see the work that we're doing. And increasingly, academic programs such as this are an important part of what we do. So I want to show you a couple of slides of the exhibition that is on view now. It is called Old Wounds, Dark Dreams. It is an exhibition that is based on my current research project. And what it kind of points to is the intersection of scholarship, academics, and social practice. That is where Art Galleries at Black Studies and the larger Black Studies resides. So what we understand is that Art Galleries at Black Studies indeed has an academic mission. It is a laboratory space where art can be experienced in community and where knowledge can be created in real time and in community. So one of the things that's been a thought experience or a thought experiment for me in the last couple of months is to think through who our interlocutors are and who our peers are. And so on the one hand, I think about the social practices yes, I'm going to call them social practices for lack of a better phrase, of Theaster Gates, and here I am showing his Dorchester Art and Housing Collaborative. This is a place where art is created in the middle of Chicago's South Side neighborhood. It is partially a redevelopment effort, and it is also a place where art is made and is happening all the time. I also think about Project Row Houses that was started by Rick Lowe. It is interested in collective creativity, how people work together to shape the world around them that then becomes art. And if you're not familiar with Project Row Houses, it has a residence component to it as well as an artist residence and exhibition space that is attached to it. Okay, looks like I'm out of slides. Whose slides are those?
That's ours. Spoiled it.
Sorry. This is what happens when all the slides are in one slideshow. Sorry. I am going to probably end there, but what I want to say is this idea of thinking of this as a social practice itself, as in artwork itself, that I am fostering experiences that I am helping others bring into the world and birthing with people who help me along the way. And I'm looking at all of the staff and other people who are deep friends and scholars of mine who make it a place where people get to grow and to think and to have a really important art experience that is manageable, that feels comfortable, that feels safe and warm. And that's not something that happens often in museums of any kind or shape or form. And so that's what we are after. So I will stop there.